Okay, this is the Ogre from MattOgre.com, WeTheArmed.com, and Crusader Weaponry. And on We The Armed, we had a thread, and I'll link to that in the information bar. But we had a thread talking about what's called the Teacup Grip. And I'm going to demonstrate that Teacup Grip. What that is that's basically taking your hand like a saucer in a teacup and put with this grip. I'm not sure what this grip is supposed to be for. All you're really doing is you're helping your firing hand hold the gun up. Now, this pistol is really not all that heavy, and holding the gun up is not the problem. What we want to do when we're using our support hand, because this is barely better than firing just one-handed, what we want to do is we want to support the gun during shooting, during the recoil, and we do that by getting a nice high grip. You can see how my hand is basically as high up as possible. Now, if you don't have it up there, if you have a little space back here, if you have that gun higher up out of your hand, if your hand's not high enough to really get a good grip into the gun, what you're doing is you're giving the gun and you're giving recoil more leverage to work against you, and we don't want that. So we want the gun to be as low as possible in the hand. This is called a high grip. The high grip puts the hand as high as possible on the gun, so that there is no room for that extra leverage to come about. The support hand, what we want to do is we want to get full contact into the grip as possible. And right now we don't have that. I've got a good grip on the gun, but I still don't have full contact. So what we do is we take our support hand, and what we do is we get it up as high as possible onto the gun, so that we provide full contact with the grip all the way around. So you can see that this part of the main meat of my thumb over here, underneath my thumb, is making contact with the grip. I've got a 100% grip right here, and this allows me to really control that recoil force. That gun is going to be under as much control as possible. Now, without that, we're going to demonstrate what the gun does during recoil. Okay, now watch the gun, the direction that the gun recoils, okay? Okay, notice how the gun came up with no support on this side. The gun came up and to the left. Now, I'm going to switch hands, and we're going to do this again. Now that time the gun came up and went up to the right, because the recoil is following the path of least resistance. So with a good full grip, notice the gun just came straight back. Now let's talk a little bit about the Weaver versus isosceles. Notice I shot from an isosceles, and let me explain why. Okay, now Corn here is holding the gun in what we call a Weaver stance. And what that is basically your strong arm is straight out. We've got a bend in this arm, and you're bladed towards the target. And this is a good stance that a lot of people use for accuracy on that one shot. But unfortunately what we have here, and real quickly, when you make that grip that we were talking about before, practice making this grip the same way every time, okay? Because that consistency builds a foundation upon which the rest of your handgunning is built on, okay? So what we do is we practice this draw, and look at your hands. Every time you draw, practice this from the holster, doing your draw stroke, and then look at your hands and making sure that your hand is lined up the same way every time. That's going to give you that strong foundation. Okay, now what we have here, we got the strong arm, and then we've got a bend in this arm. And unfortunately what happens is that during recoil, it's going to follow the path of least resistance, and the weapon is cleared, by the way, so the gun can come up and have a little bit more movement because we have this weak point. Now in an isosceles, where both arms are straight, locked out, and what we do is we have a good bone structure here. That bone structure puts the recoil force all the way through the arms, through the bone structure, into the body itself, and down to the ground for pretty much as rock solid of a stance as we can. So now this weapon with a good grip, with a solid backing, I mean, this is kind of like putting a rifle stock on that gun. It gives this gun the most support physically, humanly possible without putting an actual rifle stock onto that pistol. The gun can then cycle and function with very little leverage against the body to upset your follow-up shots. And that isosceles is what we like to see when I'm teaching a pistol course or an advanced carbine or advanced shotgun where the students are transitioning. Now from this stance, Corn would be able to really rack off a number of shots, not just that one well-placed accurate shot, which is fine, but lots of well-placed accurate shots. And that's what we want to see, because anything worth shooting is worth shooting twice, if not more. All right, thank you, Corn. Okay, I'm going to make the weapon hot. And this is that isosceles. Now you can see the gun. I'm shooting a 40 cal. This is full power ammunition. Pretty stout recoil to begin with. And notice the gun didn't really have that much of a movement, relatively speaking. If I was to have used an improper grip, or if I was to have used a stance that didn't give that full support, the gun would have had a much greater effect on me instead of me driving the gun. What we want to do is we want to drive the gun. We don't want the gun to drive us. And even full power guns, full power ammunition, this is a lightweight 40 cal, and you can rock this thing pretty well with proper technique. If the gun is kicking your butt, you're not doing it right. And be it 9mm, 40 cal, 45, 357, it doesn't matter what you're shooting. Proper technique will allow you to shoot it better. That's why we don't use Teacup. That's why we don't teach Weaver. Thank you very much.